integration, integration, integration. Integration is the combining of different groups or things into one. Here are some examples. Integration of migrants into a society is essential. When migrants come into a new country, sometimes they just group together in little pockets and don't take the effort to integrate into the society. So they don't learn the language, they don't learn how to get employment outside of their little group, and it's not the best. It's better if people learn the language and start learning how to make their way outside of their little pocket communities and integrate into their new society. Integrate. The city focuses on the integration of public transport systems. So the idea there would be to get the buses, the train, the subway all working together as one whole unit, integrating, bringing them together into one whole system so people can make their way around the city. Cultural events promote integration among communities. Tolerance, tolerance, tolerance. Tolerance is respect and acceptance of different beliefs or behaviors. Here are some examples. Tolerance is key to a peaceful society. When people in a society are tolerant of others and some of their cultural practices that we talked about in our last lesson, if they're tolerant of that, then it promotes a peaceful society. Schools teach the importance of religious tolerance. And it's so nice to be able to live in a country that is tolerant of different religious worldviews. Tolerance. We should always try to show tolerance towards others' opinions. People around us might have some strange ideas, right, and opinions. And sometimes they might be so strong and harmful towards others that we do need to take a stand. But generally speaking, we should show tolerance to the beliefs of others, as long as those beliefs are not hurtful to others. Assimilation. 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 Assimilation is the process by which a person adopts the customs and attitudes of another group. Here are some examples. The assimilation of immigrants can take generations. I've seen that to be true in Canada. When we have so many immigrants coming to Canada, sometimes the first generation have a difficult time integrating into their new culture, their new society. But then their children have a much easier time at integrating into the new society. And then when they have children, they're pretty much Canadians all the way. So generations. Sometimes the assimilation of immigrants can take generations. Some worry that rapid assimilation might erase their traditions. And we need to be careful of that. I think it's important that especially the children of immigrants learn both the languages of Canada and still maintain the language of their parents, so that when they go back to visit grandparents in the home country, they'll be able to talk to their grandparents. My daughter, An, is trilingual. She knows English, French, and also Vietnamese. the language of her heritage, Vietnam. Language plays a significant role in assimilation. I know people who have moved to Canada or the United States that have lived here for 30 years and have never learned English. They just stay within their own little communities, and they don't find it necessary to learn the language of their new society because they just operate within their own little pocket communities. But if they want to assimilate, it's important that they learn the main language of the country that they migrate to. Ethnicity. 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 Ethnicity refers to a group of people who share a cultural or national background. People might ask you, "What is your ethnicity?" What would you respond? "Oh, I'm African," or "Oh, I'm Kenyan," might be more specific. What is your ethnicity? But then, if you wanted to get really specific about your ethnicity, you might say the ethnic group that you came from as well. So you might say, "I'm Maasai from Kenya in Africa." So I'm African, I'm Kenyan, but I'm also Maasai. That's your ethnicity. Here are some examples. Canada is proud of its diverse ethnicity. Ethnicity plays a role in some traditional festivals. They did a study on ethnicity and health outcomes. If you've ever seen some of these health studies, they can show how different people from different ethnicities are more inclined to get certain diseases. So that's an interesting study to do and to know about. Prejudice. 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 Prejudice is an unfair opinion or feeling about someone based on their nationality, their gender, etc. This is a lot like the word that we learned in our last lesson, discrimination. Prejudice is a lot like discrimination. When you have an unfair opinion about somebody based on their gender or where they came from, their ethnicity, it's not good to have prejudice against people based on who they are and where they came from. Everybody in this whole world is created equal, right? And there should be no prejudice or discrimination. Here are some examples. Prejudice can lead to discrimination. It's vital to challenge our own prejudices. And this is a good idea. We need to examine ourselves to see if we have any unfair opinions about people based on who they are or where they're from or what kind of handicap they might have, the language that they might speak. He faced prejudice because of his accent. Have you ever experienced this? As you're learning English, you probably have developed an accent. Have you ever experienced prejudice from other people because of your accent? Sustainability. 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 Sustainability is using resources in a way that will make them last for future generations. Here are some examples. Sustainability is crucial in modern urban planning. When people sit down to plan the water system, the sewage system, the electricity system of a community or a city, they need to develop systems that are going to be sustainable and last for future generations. The company focuses on sustainability in its products. Farming methods need to prioritize sustainability. Urbanization. 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 Urbanization is the growth of cities due to the movement of people from rural areas. Do you know what rural areas are? That's basically the countryside. People living on farms or small villages or towns are moving to the big cities. And that's what we call urbanization. The trend of people moving from the countryside to the big cities. Urbanization. Here are some examples. Rapid urbanization poses challenges to city planners. You can imagine how difficult it would be if you were an engineer in a city to plan out how to accommodate all of the hundreds of thousands of people that are moving to your city. How can you plan out your systems in such a way that will make it sustainable? Urbanization has changed the face of many countries. With urbanization comes increased demand for services. Empowerment. 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 Empowerment is giving people the authority or ability or power to do something. Here are some examples. Women's empowerment is essential for societal progress. We've talked about this in the past. By giving women their equal rights, their human rights, is very important to grow a peaceful society and make it prosperous, is when you give women empowerment. Education leads to the empowerment of youth. When children go to study at school, they become empowered to be successful in life, to gain a good career, a good job, and be able to serve others. In many countries that I visit, the parents don't see the importance of education, and they might send their girls to school only to grade 1 or 2, and then they pull them out and have them work on their little farm. And so they don't understand how important it is to empower their girls through education. Economic empowerment reduces poverty. So when you can teach someone how to run a small business out of their home, you are doing economic empowerment. Empowerment is a real buzzword in societies and in modern culture, and so it's a good word to know and understand what it means. Empowerment. Diversity. 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 Diversity is having many different types or forms. And in relation to our vocabulary for IELTS, as we think about migration and culture and societal issues, it's usually referencing the diversity of people, having many different types or forms of people. Here are some examples. Companies benefit from staff diversity. So if your company has people from all over the world working there, it is going to enrich your company with many different skill sets that the people bring from their different cultures. It's going to be to your company's benefit to have this diversity on their staff. It can also help with public appreciation of your company. When people from different backgrounds see that you are conscientious enough to employ people that come from their same culture, they're more likely to become your customer or to become your supporter. If you're an organization that asks people for money and donations, well, it's good to have people on your staff that come from all of these different backgrounds. Universities encourage diversity in their student population, and we found this to be true in Canada. And so we encourage people from all over the world to come and study at our universities in Canada, because it really enhances the university experience when you can study at a university that is multicultural. Diversity is a strength of the community. Here, where we live in Canada, when I go for a walk and I see my neighbors, I realize that I am the ethnic minority in my neighborhood. I'm a white guy, but most of the other people that live in my subdivision are coming from many parts of the world. And that's just the way Canada is. It's very multicultural. And this has brought a lot of strength to Canada, to have this diversity in our country, our nation. Marginalized. 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 Marginalized is treating a group of people as unimportant or powerless. Here are some examples. Marginalized groups often face discrimination. We talked in our last lesson about ethnic minorities that live in the hillsides of many countries that I visit. And it's often true that these people are marginalized. In other words, the government of the country where they live do not treat them the same as the other citizens. So they might not get the same educational opportunities, they don't build the schools, they don't send the teachers, they might not have the health clinics or health cards, they might not even get citizenship papers. And so they are marginalized and kind of put to the edges of society. That's kind of what marginalized means, is you put them right to the margins of your country or your society, a place where people don't get the same services or access to services. He worked to uplift the marginalized sectors of society. How wonderful it is when people work to uplift people who have been marginalized. Advocacy is vital for the rights of the marginalized.